congratulations to everybody for all the work that was done successfully to execute on our plan to have an Earth Action Fair. I think it's fair to say that there were parts of that event, that multifaceted event, that were successful and parts that were not so successful. It's hard at this distance to go into all the details of what was done and to acknowledge the hard work that was put in. But it's a little easier at this remove to look back a little bit critically and constructively to reflect on the fact that we accomplished something despite many, many obstacles in our way. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that after that event, everybody basically agreed that none of us want to do that again. So we are, at this point looking at starting our new year as a committee. I have thought a lot, long and hard, about what that means. And I recently met with City Manager George Rodericks. Looking at the obstacles and the issues that we faced to execute on that, it's clear that it doesn't work for a committee to try and put on an event. We were pretty much stretched to our limit, and we did not have the support we felt we needed. We did not have the framework upon which to communicate and coordinate on an event that had already been approved and authorized, and we needed to execute on. The terms of operating as a town committee prevented us from communicating. I drank black coffee because I could not be asked if I took cream and sugar in my coffee, which, as generous as it was, just in many ways is emblematic of the sort of silly obstacles, but nevertheless.
Valerie, can I just interject one quick because, after the Earth Day event, we did have not only the awards ceremony, and everyone was a part of that. I think Janet was there, and Janiska and Dinsinka, council members and all of that. So we have kind of had some closure about that as far as, giving the awards and acknowledging all of the hard work that the committee, expended. And so we are very grateful for that, and I think it was an enormous task. It was an enormous success in so many ways with all of the children that participated. And I think from their perspective, if we kind of turn it around and look at it from their participation and their perspective, it was really a great thing. Now, I don't think we're going to be talking about, so if we're going to discuss Earth Day 2017 on our agenda, we should save our comments for that agenda item. And, so that's just my sense, because we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here a little bit. But if we wanted to kind of, your kind of public comment about the frustrations that you had doing the event in 2016, I can understand that, and it was a very challenging situation, and that I can acknowledge it was very rushed. It was an enormous vision to undertake in a very short period of time, and that short period of time was exacerbated by council's decisions, not anything that your committee really decided. And so I think that we need to kind of put that into some perspective also. So the whole project was a grand vision, and it was executed, I believe, in the highest and the best way it could have been in the short period of time. And acknowledgement to all the hard work that you and the committee did for that. And we had if you look at it from the perspective again, from all those faces, and I will never forget, and I've got it on video, we've got it on video, it's on the EPC website, on the town's website, these kids getting their awards. It's just an amazing situation, experience. So kudos to you for doing that. But if we want to go forward and talk about, 2017, I think it's on the agenda. We should probably wait for that.
Elizabeth, thank you for completing my statement for me, because that's basically what I was going to say.
Good. Okay.
With the additional fact that, yes, we will be talking about Earth Day 2017, but having probed George and discussing pretty much all of the major obstacles that we faced, including marketing, obstruction, budget, fights, resources, staff resources, a number of things. It was agreed to, I think George and I basically came to an agreement that the EPC was not set up to be an operating committee. It was not set up to be an active agent and organizer of events. That he basically saw us organizing an event like that as being in conflict with our authority as a committee, and we are an advisory committee. Mm-hmm. And while we somehow got authorization from the council, largely I think because of your interest in having an event, we executed on a large event, literally with our hands tied behind our backs. So in retrospect, as George and I agreed, that was not what we were supposed to do. We were supposed to advise. And so on that note, I'd like to say that we as a committee are here to tell them, the staff, what we think they should do. And as we talk about everything on this agenda, I think we need to keep in mind that we are meeting based upon our schedule to advise the town what we think would make a good program, what we think are the priorities, and we will go through our agenda, but we're not doing anything. And so on that basis, we don't design or execute or run any events. And on that basis, I think we have the ability to move ahead as a committee, if you guys are up for it, and go through our agenda, which Stephanie creates for us, and advise what we think makes sense.
Okay.
And that's where we are.
So I want to just say one more thing about your preamble, because you feel that I think you stated, that amazingly we had not met since after the Earth Day event until now, and it was agreed that from the council's direction that after the Earth Day event, that until the climate action plan was passed and approved by council, that there was no other direction from council for the Environmental Programs Committee. And so that's why it was in recess, and it seemed like everybody needed a break anyway. And we went ahead and had the awards ceremony, and brought everybody back together for that, and gave out the awards, and it was a celebration of the Earth Day event. And the council just last 2 weeks ago tomorrow approve the climate action plan as
Correct.
robust or as we all may believe it is. It is what it is. We also, approved the new Cal Green, mandates, and to go forward on what we're going to do about
Great.
looking at those and merging them and seeing where we need to ask. So that's the next thing.
I think everybody understands that.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Let's go ahead with our regular agenda. And we are going to cover appointing a chairperson and a vice chair. Do I have a nomination?
Only you three can vote. It's only you three. I don't have a vote.
Would you like to be chair this year?
I cannot take that duty on.
I can't do that.
I don't know if you think I could do it.
Well, there's no preclusion to appoint the same individual if that's the way that the committee chooses to go.
Yeah. And it seems like we're down a person because we typically have 5, and since Frank has not, we've kind of left him on the committee and not filled his spot. But I think a conversation that Lisa had with him was that he's really doesn't, have the heart to come back at this time.
So let's defer, see if we can recruit maybe another member or two, and when Jasenka can be here, we can elect our new chairperson for the next
I think
session.
I think that's reasonable.
Is that okay?
Mhm.
I'm happy to defer that. I think we would do ourselves a disservice if we nominated Jasenka in her absence and she wasn't
I
able
feel like it's right to do.
Even though I do think we did discuss that as a possibility last year.
Uh-huh,
I
right.
don't know, given that she's not here, and I don't know what her schedule
Exactly.
has turned
Yeah.
out to be, whether she feels like she could take that on.
And then, going down to the item B, we need to really tighten that up. Okay?
Yes, and item B, moving ahead, for the schedule. I think Jasenka's schedule is one of the ones that is making it hard to meet during the day.
Yes.
I don't know what our flexibility is for meeting in the early evening or at another time, but I think Jasenka is an important member of this committee,
So
and we would be better off if we could have meetings when she's available.
Do you have her availabilities? Did she Google?
I communicated with Jasenka. I know that in the latter half of the year with her courses, she could not make Tuesdays. She did say that Thursdays were a possibility, which is why we had 2 alternate calendars for
Okay.
consideration, with the suggested calendar being on the Thursday, every other month, 3rd Thursday of the month, same time, 1 to 3 p.m., to hopefully accommodate her teaching schedule.
It's just a question of would she be able to be back by 1 p.m. That's the only thing we don't know.
Or could we make it later in the afternoon,
Yeah, I
like
don't know
at
if that's
4
possible,
or
yeah.
something like that, or at 3:30?
So I would like to suggest we consider the Thursday
At 1.
option
Yeah.
and have you continue to talk to her about her availability, if that's an acceptable way of handling this, because I'm relatively available.
I was going to ask that question. If I can confirm with her that the 3rd Thursdays of every other month will work, and what timing works best. Are there any time restrictions from either or any of you that I can convey to her so we can try to get to a cohesive point?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's really, I have to pick up my child every day by 3:10, so every day will be a challenge. So there's only, I'm looking at this, what is it? 1, 2, 6 days. I can make my husband pick him up.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that would be nice. And so,
As an
it depends on
accommodation.
her,
Yeah.
whether she can meet at 1 or.
Okay. I'll ask the question if she's able to meet the calendar as it's proposed in terms of day and time, and if it's just day and not time, then we can report it back at the next scheduled EPC meeting at January, if this is the calendar that moves forward, January 19th, time to be determined.
Okay, perfect.
But shooting for the afternoon, 1 o'clock or later.
So I would like to defer the discussion of Earth Day, which is number C, and get right to number D. Item D, which is the review and prioritization of the greenhouse gas measures for the town's climate action. I think an Earth Day event is perhaps an outcome of working on what those climate action measures should be. So I'd like to see if we can prioritize them, which means basically looking at them, reviewing them, because we had looked at them quite a while ago, and prioritizing which ones we think the town should implement, since the committee cannot implement any of them. So on that basis, I think we can go through this entire list pretty quickly.
Okay. Is that the document, the city council, this one?
Do you?
So it's
the
the attachment. It should be an attachment to what we
the
have.
color one?
I'm sorry?
This
The
one.
colored one, yes.
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
table with
Alright,
differentiated
okay.
colors on it. And so just to, if I could really quickly back up and just give a brief overview
That would be great.
of what you're looking at here. And so I didn't want to give you the entire final climate action plan. It is available online. I think we provided the link for that. But what I did want to focus the discussion on today was the final, I believe it's 25 adopted and approved greenhouse gas reduction measures that the council took action upon as part of the overall climate action plan. And so
What percentage of the total items that we had recommended is this 25?
So they're all in there. If you recall, the last version that the Environmental Programs Committee had looked at, we had discussed voluntary and mandated type measures, and we presented all of that
Okay.
to the commission at 2 prior study sessions prior to our meeting last month in October, in which a final draft version was created. And based on the direction that the staff received at those study sessions in February and March earlier this year, ultimately all of the, we'll call them mandated measures that the committee had recommended were taken in their context and revised to have the language read to be all voluntary in nature. So all of these 25 measures that you see in this summary table are measures that are either A, voluntary in nature, or B, policies or programs or things that the town is really already doing and or is being mandated to do by state legislation.
Right.
So that was the overall approach that the final adopted climate action plan took.
So no mandatory measures?
Aside from what is mandated by the state.
By the state, correct.
Okay.
And of the, I think, fairly long, lengthy list of measures that we had, how many were not approved? This is a list of 25.
I don't have that exact number off the top of my head because we ran so many different versions of it. I'd have to go back to November actually of 2015, which was your final recommended adopted version that then went to the council, which then went to 2 additional study sessions. So we can certainly take the 25 adopted and go back and give you the answer in terms of quantity or percentage or however it's best conveyed.
Okay.
So there's like 2 attachments. One is a tab like 3693, and the other one is 3555. And 3555, the title is City Council Staff Report. And in that I can see sort of a little, sorry, I'm also losing my voice, a little better what is being adopted and what isn't to what percentage, like the greenhouse gas for like Assembly Bill 32, which requires California to reduce the state's gas, so it's based upon those results, which is like based on whether it's state, federal, or county, what's already in place.
Yeah, I'm sorry, which document are you referring to right
It
now?
looks like the title of it. I'm looking under the tab number. It comes over under tab 3555 when you pull it up on your computer, or it's under City Council Staff Report - Regular Agenda, item number 25.
Oh, the council staff report.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's go there then.
And that was October 19th. That helps you anymore. Okay.
Mhm.
And it looks like it's what it's doing is it's following what's already mandated, essentially, and we can sort of get a guideline from there. So the language that we put in that was mandatory will be adopted, and maybe the things that were suggested may not be adopted, but could be voluntary. Is that my understanding?
They are adopted. They are adopted as measures,
but
those
they're
measures
voluntary
are
versus
voluntary.
mandatory
Correct.
unless there are otherwise a regulation.
Correct.
Okay.
So they're adopted as measures, but my understanding is that at this point, the council adopted these as acceptable measures, have now put it back into our laps to prioritize them. And let's say out of the 25, we say 12 are priorities or 15 are priorities. Then they will go back and decide which of those they will actually want to work on.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it would be really helpful if I can just interject, okay? Because knowing my council, it's no secret, not every member of the council is 100%
Enthusiastic.
enthusiastic, okay? So, not if you say, here's 15, you decide, I would prioritize them as to what we feel is the biggest bang for the buck, the most important, like maybe the top 5, but then, everything's important, but, but prioritize it that way.
Okay, I also think that having looked at this list already,
Yeah,
I think that there needs to be some identification of which ones we are already kind of doing,
absolutely.
and which ones are so easy as to be
A no-brainer.
ridiculous not to do,
Yeah,
because it might be literally an article in the Athertonian. Encourage homeowners to do such and such. What are you going to do?
exactly.
You could put a sign up in the building department, or you could do such and such. These are so easy as to take no effort, and that's exactly likely what we'll get.
Right.
So we might as well talk about what kind of commitment we're talking about when we say we think this should be implemented, because by saying we shouldn't encourage green building is not a priority. Well, what does encourage constitute? I mean, that's just is another discussion. So in my assessment, I looked at how easy or difficult each of these measures would be to implement, and whether the benefit of having it implemented was high or low. So it's
Okay.
either it goes from easy to hard to do,
Okay,
and high to low in importance. And
Okay.
I'd say the vast majority were all easy and high in my mind, which complicates our mission because they're virtually all easy as described and high priority. So I'm looking for other people to tell me. I think the only ones that I saw that were not completely easy or key, so I'd say number 2, EC2, as a residential energy program is not easy. But energy is the main way that we contribute to climate change, and homeowners having excessive energy and wasted energy and dirty energy. This seems to be a key program. However, it's a harder thing to implement.
but, so one of my thoughts would be, like, if you look the numbers of emissions avoided, right? And you go down to the community choice aggregation, that's 2,065 units or whatever. I mean, that's clearly, that's the biggest bang for its buck right now, and that's kind of the easiest and most, right? And so we
Right,
should,
but let
but
me ask-
we're doing that already.
Yes, let me say something about that,
Yeah.
because the town will continue to participate in community choice aggregation programs. What is there to do? We are already signed up,
Right.
we've already participating.
So
This does not indicate how much energy will go into recruiting people to sign up
Of course.
or doing that. So I think that is something that we need to sort of discuss. But obviously, if we're already doing it and it has a big bang for the buck,
it's good.
that's good.
So we can check that off our list, and then
Yes.
what would be the next highest on the list? And maybe we can just kind of
It's the one
evaluate
you
it
said
that
it's hard
way.
to do.
In terms of that one, just in terms of staff availability, also a big portion of my role here in Atherton is I'm going to be working a lot to execute a lot of these, so we will have a lot more staff resource. And in terms of EC2, there is a program that was developed and presented to the county. It is kind of expensive though, like ranging from like $2,000 to $10,000 depending on the municipality. But it would kind of engage residents, and like you can show what measures you're taking in your own home to promote energy efficiency, and then you can kind of compete with your neighbors. And it would be a good way, I think, to kind of get the whole town involved. So that is something we're looking into. It would just be a matter of budget.
So if the committee felt that EC2 was a high priority item, some of the information and resources that we're gaining availability to, we can help summarize that to present to you. If we, after the measures are presented in prioritized format to the council, and the council gives the staff direction, yes, perhaps we want to tackle 1 through 4 or whatever the number is, then we can come back and provide the committee more detail on some of the outlets that are out there, as well as taking in all of your expertise to then perhaps create some kind of draft implementation program to go back on how are you going to actually get this measure up and running. So I think Dori was giving an example of just one of the resources that she knows of that's out there based on her involvement with some of the regional
Is that
organizations.
Smart Energy San Mateo or Energy?
Is that Menlo Spark?
No, I can get the name of it. It was someone in Palo Alto developed it privately. It was her company.
Menlo Spark. I'm pretty sure that's the same.
Oh, no, it's PAEC.
Yeah.
It's PAEC, right?
I can go run back to my office and find it, but so I think basically we will have more staff resources, so if you think that's a high priority, then we can definitely explore all our options.
So, do we want to go through this whole list? I do think that EC2 is a high priority.
Okay.
I agree. We spent a lot of time on that before.
Yes. Sure did. And it has a pretty big payback number.
And then EC6 would be, I don't know how the city could encourage people to even know about the choice, because it is a private company, so I'm not really sure if you can do that or not.
Well, we're already receiving mailers about it, the community choice aggregation, and the whole San Mateo County is a part of it. And it's Rick DeGoya is on the board, and it's going. It's a going thing. I think it's continuing to be in front of the residents about the changeover and the benefits, so that they don't opt out. Because I think it's an automatic opt-in. Am I right in that? Yeah. So.
So on
But I don't think from our committee that there's a lot that we
can
because
certainly do. Yeah.
they're already doing that marketing
But
for
I'm just
us.
looking
I
at the
think.
number; it has the biggest impact.
It's huge, yeah, and I think we could monitor it to make sure and get reports maybe from our board member how it's going. Yeah.
I think number one, EC1 is pretty critical because it is coming down the pipe that we need green building standards will be implemented pretty soon, and I think we as a town should get ahead of that and really do what it takes to get homes that are built in this time frame to conform to what we know we need as a community, since homes last for a long time. So I think number one is a critical one.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has feelings about that.
Through the chair,
Yes.
would it be helpful also, for example, with EC1 and then connected to EC4, being EC1 being the residential net zero energy and EC4 being pertaining to commercial or non-residential buildings, so effectively the private schools and the circus club, to dive into the new 2016 California Building Code, Energy Code, and Cal Green requirements, and see what of those new requirements, how is that already going to be met, and if you want to look to go beyond that.
Correct, I agree.
Okay.
Link them and make it part of, a coordinated campaign, because it's really not any extra effort. I mean, we don't have that many commercial
Right.
Yeah, it's a
areas
small-
anyway.
Yeah,
It is small and it's absolutely overlapping.
Is there any way to highlight buildings that are done well?
And you know what?
Sure, absolutely.
While you're at it,
I'm just thinking it's kind of like a low-hanging fruit. So if you do something well, you can
Right.
celebrate a win. Like
Yeah,
let's say,
for example, the town arborist does her tree tree awards for protections of trees during construction that have showed exemplary efforts. So certainly could.
I'm just thinking it could be the same for a building. Like we're really excited this new building is coming, blah blah blah. Because if all you just know the new building is coming, but that's it.
Right.
and I think it goes hand in hand with EM4, because when you work to make town facilities more energy efficient, it sets an example for residential and commercial. So those three definitely form a triad of overlapping and similar education requirements.
So just a little update on the building plans for the Civic Center, the new Civic Center. We're really pushing to have, well, first off, the library is scheduled to be a zero net energy building. And to the extent that the rest of the campus and the main admin and police department can be as much of a net zero energy. There's difference. There's zero net energy, and then there's net zero energy when you're making your own energy. Anyway, so this is really a big focus right now for if we can finance it. So
Is that where the bricks go?
Makes sense.
absolutely, but
Yeah.
we have to be able to finance it and pay for it. Private donations are coming in. Our list is growing and growing by the day, but we may still have to go out for public funding to augment. It'd be a private-public partnership here with private donations and public financing. With we have to do some ballot measures to do that, to be able to fund it.
So in terms of where we have some high returns and some already very deep sunk investments in programs and efforts, I think TRC1
Yes, absolutely.
in coordination with TRC2 seem like a very high priority, because we want to encourage people to get out of their cars and to use their bikes, and we need to make the routes safe, and we need to make biking routes clearer. So those two seem highly linked to me, and I think we should support the existing efforts of the bike committee and the bike master plan, and say that we definitely need to be promoting that and having the town, you know, continuing that effort. So I see those as two linked. Are there others that should be linked into that subgroup of safe routes and making this a more walkable community or bikeable
It would
community?
be TRM3, I guess. It's kind of the bus and ride share kind of thing, so walkable, but we don't have that many buses or that
Oh,
many
and
ride
there's
shares.
only this one, because it's for public employees.
I understand, so it's like one of those things, like, but I'm like saying as close as we can get.
Okay.
With most of our staff being police officers, I don't think that's.
Well, we do let them sleep in the carriage house, so
Yeah.
that is creating somewhat of a diversion.
Right.
I don't know if they choose to or if they like sleeping there, but
Some definitely, it's been a big help. It's been a big help.
I would agree with the bike one though.
So the waste diversion goal, how is, that would seem to be a big,
It would, but I see a lot of supporting measures here, which I'm kind of like, what does that mean? There's no number to go against it.
So those don't have a quantifiable reduction.
Okay.
There's no metric volume that they can be associated with,
All right.
and the consultant's ability
I think
to
we
do it.
went over trying to
Right.
calculate. I remember those.
Right.
Okay. It was almost a year, so
Yeah,
it's
sure.
refreshing your memory.
Of course. However, with that said, implementation does contribute to
Of
the
course, the
overall.
overall goal.
It's just not quantifiable.
So I do think that, you know, we now have what I've calculated is 4 major powers. If I can recap for a moment, the number 1 being an energy program,
Is that EC2?
EC2,
And then EC1/4 kind of
EC1,
/
4,
EC4
and
EM4.
EM4 can constitute number 2 priority. Those all are green building related and coordinated. I do believe community choice and participating in that number 3 is highly critical. And we've also picked the bike routes and safe routes and alternate transportation
So that's
metrics
TRC1.
as number 4, which leaves us, I think, with probably one more that we could identify. And I think waste programs, which may blend some of these higher diversion goal, require commercial recycling, promote recycling and diversion of yard waste. These are all coordinated as well. So let's just,
I think a water also is a.
Yeah.
well, that's not part of this, but let's decide if we
that's-
want to go for a 6th priority. So
The water incentive one?
I'd like to say that waste, treatment of waste and reducing our waste and all that should be part of our number 6 priority, which includes some or all of these measures that are kind of connected and work together as part of a bigger program. You wouldn't go in and say reduce your waste and not, you know,
do all the rest.
do all the other things, right? It just makes sense to work them together.
So that would be 5, I think.
That's 5.
Thank you.
And now Janet has talked about one last one, which we can decide if out of these 25 we want to go for 6. But I agree, we need to have a water related priority in the town since at least at this time, drought risks are still pretty high. So
What would you say, like WTR?
Which numbers are that? WTR.
This one, it's,
1, 2,
I would probably pick 2 because it has ordinances and it's most likely to be adopted.
And some of the
We have 1 and 2.
yeah, but some of WTRC2 similar to the net zero energy
Yeah.
are also going to be captured in the 2016 Cal Green Building Update.
So I think that might be something we could,
It could be wrapped into the
Yeah.
green building
Right.
information.
Yes.
And you know,
Promotion of that,
in actuality, everything relates to that because having electric chargers in front of
Yes.
those buildings and having safe routes and connecting it to mass transit, all that stuff is related to when you get points for your, LEED Platinum if you access mass transit. So it's all connected anyway, but in terms of education
Mhm.
campaigns or priorities, I think distinctly identifying water saving measures is a critical one, even if it is supportive and resonating and emphasizing already existing green building measures. So that's number 6. Anybody have any
would we
last?
wrap it into this one, EC 1 and 4, EM 4, WTRC 2?
If the staff would like to wrap it in and put it all as part of green building, I'm fine with that. I have no issue. But I
It
think
just-
those
it
are
might
our
look
6
like
priorities.
less, right?
Any other priorities? Or you'll look like less?
Yeah, instead of like giving like, I have 10 wish items, it's like, I have 4.
Good idea, I like that, I really do.
I like that you've established the bike ped as a high priority. I think that's important. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of staff resources. It's more of a monetary commitment that the council's gonna need to make to implement it.
But
there's
we
already a
could
plan
work
in place.
potentially work the bike people.
Yeah, and
But we-
I love it being a priority.
Yeah.
So I think it's good to have some others that we can implement.
Or even the planning commission, I mean, just even hearing from another
Mhm.
commission could be helpful.
Sure, and we can provide all this to the planning commission so that when they consider projects, if they
And-
wanna add
Right, and so if we, hear that this is really, really
Yeah, I
important,
think it's
maybe
good.
they can maybe we reallocate funds, cause we've got money allocated over the years.
So does that include these
Sharrows,
markings on the
the
street?
sharrows, yes.
I mean,
You don't
What?
like those?
I hate them.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't understand them.
Oh, they
You're
really,
not
really
biking
were.
then, because biking,
Well,
bikers
but
love
you've already
them.
got a sign, and then you've got those,
Well, the sign shows the route,
right?
but
Well, it also says bike lane or
But-
whatever it says.
what it does, it reminds drivers who are looking on the road that bikes are also on the road and they are legally there and they have a right to be there and you cannot run over them and you need to give them a 3-foot berth, and that's a state law, that's not our law.
Oh, no, I know, I just think, and they're so close together, I just think.
Well,
if we-
that is something
it's actually.
that it's per the municipal code, the NTSBUBMD or something. I mean, there's a huge long, but I think that there is a way, and there is supposed to be an analysis done by Public Works to count the numbers of them and measure them and see if we could remove some of them. Because I think that they went to the exact minimum distance, and I think there's a
Yeah,
maximum
I mean-
distance. So,
And they're chipping already, I mean.
well, if they are called because they're supposed to come back and fix those, and they did it
Okay.
with that 3/4
Yeah.
quarter-inch polymer,
Right.
so that tires would hear it and that it would be less maintenance if it was just paint on the pavement, and it would last longer. I have all of the answers, Janet, because
I just,
I have had so many
it just
people.
seems to me like a waste of money. Yeah, that's all I.
It wasn't that much money, actually.
Okay.
It's made such an enormous, huge difference
really
at
has.
the Marsh Road
Yes.
Middlefield
I would agree.
intersection, which I was at pretty much every morning for the last 10 years, where cars would zoom into the bike lane
Well, I
to
can
try
understand
and
areas,
pass people who
Yeah.
were
but I don't
queuing up.
understand Austin Avenue.
Because that's That is the route that goes from central Atherton to Sacred Heart and Menlo School.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
if it's doing well, like,
It's not on
Great.
every road, yeah.
okay.
I don't
I have to say, I was very negative about how little was being built. It was just paint to
Well,
separate bikers
but
from cars. But
that's the first
having
phase.
having the paint there as a biker who has ridden on some of these routes, I actually feel safer having my space delineated. Plus, there's now a new law that says that cars are required to keep 3 feet
3
of
feet
distance, and
Well,
when
there's
cars
no-
actually come closer to that lane, it is,
And we have signs now
yeah.
on our
making a
signs.
But there is no way, I'm sorry, but you cannot drive down Austin Avenue where there's a bike lane
Right.
and stay 3 feet away
No.
without running into a car
No,
on the
but
other
you have
side.
to wait until that car passes.
Yeah.
I mean, Emily is the same way.
I have gotten
and-
so many dirty looks
Yeah.
and fingers,
Yeah.
because.
People are rude. They are rude. But, you know, there are people that are walking their children in their little baby carts up and down the streets because there's no sidewalks. And you have to just wait until there's a safe place to pull out and go around. And you just do. Because we live in a thickly wooded rural area.
She's quoting the general.
You know, I can
Thickly wooded.
thickly wooded.
Thick- Is it? Isn't that what it says?
Yes, that's
You
what it
read the
says.
general plan, right?
Yes, that's what it says.
Okay, that is our
Is that
town's
really?
character, okay? We have lanes and ways
Mm-hmm.
and avenues. We don't have thoroughfares, and we live in a thickly wooded, we're the little wooded area,
Okay.
and we drive slowly.
I thought it was the park-like setting, that was like.
It's the park lights.
Is it doing well?
I
And I'm
think it's doing
conjuring
better than
Phil
you would
Lively
think.
when I say that.
Thank you.
So what do we have as our priorities list? I'd like to
So-
hear it back out of curiosity.
So,
Can I,
yes, why don't you
if
summarize?
I don't mind starting, so then
Yeah.
if I'm misunderstanding, please correct me so we can make sure to move forward. So in terms of priorities, I have total of 6. The first one being EC2, which
Mhm.
is the Residential Energy Conservation Program,
Mhm.
creation of. I have as number 2 sort of the combined effort of EC1,
Mm-hmm.
EC4, and EM4, and those have to do with residential, commercial, and municipal energy efficiency.
Okay, so my question is, do we add
Yes.
WTRC2 into that?
WTRC,
Two
Two.
into that same effort, because it's very similar. It's just a water component.
right. So I had to bounce around. I had WTRC2 combined with WTRC1, which, since 2 is the actual, let's get this ordinance of regulation in place, and 2 is the supporting, I kind of call it, measure on how are we going to promote and educate and expand beyond the just implementation of the ordinance to the community. But we can certainly,
Actually, I think
Shift it.
WTRC3 also goes along with
Agree.
that, because
They're all part and parcel.
they're all
of each
part, and, you know, some people may have opportunities to do recapture and permeable pavements and things. So those are all part of a water education, water smart
yes.
approach.
And I had that as priority
whole
number
separate.
6.
Okay.
Yes, so I
alright.
think that is, unless you feel like you wanna limit it to 5 priorities, but I think these are discrete and could be a separate program because some people may not be building, but they might wanna be improving their irrigation system. So
Yeah.
this would be a discrete area, I think.
I think that, in my opinion, I think 6 is completely appropriate, because moving on to priority number 3, which I had as EC6, which is the community choice aggregation, which the town is already participating in. It's just a question of what can we do perhaps to help further its
promotion,
education and promotion of.
Okay.
So that one's sort of a we're already doing
Yeah.
it, maybe we can take it a little bit farther.
Alright.
We're not kind of starting fresh.
Okay,
so to
it's a
speak.
gimme kind of thing.
And so number 4 I had as TRC1 and TRC2, both having to do with implementation of already adopted programs and policies within the town's bicycle and pedestrian master plan. And it's getting those ramped up and perhaps expanding. I don't know the bike ped plan off the top of my head, but we'll need
That's
to dive
fair.
into it and, see what the policies say and what our climate action plan says and where we need to fill in any gaps. And so then we have number 5, which is noted, excuse me, as WC1, and that has to do with our solid waste diversion rate and going beyond, which I believe was recently adopted, town percentage of a 75% diversion rate by 2020, and we're looking to go beyond.
Are we combining WC2 and WC3 and all that?
I think so. I think those are all there.
And WM1 and WM2?
To the extent that I think that they can
Yeah.
logically unify those efforts, I think it makes sense. Also, the things that the town is already doing, which are, purchasing policy related or internal waste related. I mean, the town is probably already trying to recycle its waste. I don't think we need to say, we need a separate priority for that. I think the town is already doing that. So, yes, I think all those go hand in hand.
Okay, and we talked about the last prioritized item, number 6, which is a combine of the WTRC 1 through 3.
Yes,
Okay.
so that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Now, are we in a position to make any recommendations about that?
So I had also put that, it included, I wasn't sure how the meeting was going to run its course. So we wanted to ask for the committee to prioritize and then go back, and we can do that. We can perhaps start the discussion today, or we can move forward with the prioritization, but then dive into each of your, in this case, categories of priorities and come up with ideas on how to actually implement those. So we could do this a couple different ways. I think I had put a few suggestions in there just for consideration, any way that the committee feels comfortable with. We can bring forward the prioritized list to the council, get direction and approval, yes, we agree, or maybe we shift 2 to 3 or whatever the final discussion may lend itself. Come back and then start tackling the top 3 or however many you can get through in each meeting in terms of the actual ideas for implementation. We need to then, of course, bring those back to the council for final discussion and approval to implement and authorize.
I think I would like to hear what would be approved first before tackling what.
And we may be
Mayor's input. I think the council might be a little more comfortable providing direction if they have a sense of what the implementation measures are. I don't know what your thought is.
Well, let me think about that a second, because that's like asking committee to do a lot of, work to then present programs, I think that from my perspective, if we could get a sense from council, if they agree with priorities and say, maybe they say, yeah, that seems like a good thing to tackle because it's going to be the biggest bang for the buck,
right.
kind of a thing.
Okay.
And then let them flush it out. I think that makes more sense to me. Then also,
It's also less
You could-
frustrating for us.
exactly, and
Yeah, if you did all the work and then.
Yeah.
well,
shut
yeah,
down.
but staff does that all the time.
They're weird.
But then maybe from
That's
the
what they get paid
committee,
to do, though.
right? And that's why we get all the big bucks because that's what we do too. But maybe committee can kind of dovetail what comes back from council into, maybe an Earth Action Day, event, surrounding those, so that we keep the same message going.
I think that dovetails to the idea of moving to that event and trying to figure out what that event would be now that we have identified our
Yeah.
priorities.
Let's
Yeah,
say
I
like
guess
this
I'm
bike
just-
thing becomes a big thing. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, this bike thing is a
Yeah.
good idea. And then you're like, we could have a bike day in
Right.
Atherton. Maybe
Yeah.
that is our Earth Action Day.
Right.
And,
How many people can you get on a bike?
educating our residents who
have a
don't
bike
like the
repair
bike shows.
something. So I guess that would be, I'm just concerned about timing, because we could go to council in January to get direction on these.
And that would be what day?
Priorities.
Because we would see you most likely on the 19th.
17th, 19th, no, what's the third
Yeah,
Wednesday?
Is it the 16th?
well,
It
It
is
would be the
just
day after
18th.
the council meeting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so we would have an idea.
So January, 1, 2, 3, 18th.
Yeah, we'd
Yeah.
be okay with that. We would know what the direction
I
would
think
be.
that's a good idea.
At least you have
Okay,
a
I
good
see what you're
starting
saying
point.
though, if bike is the highest priority, then we have a bike fair.
Yeah.
And if it's green building, then we do green building
Yeah.
awards
Mhm.
and have a student challenge, or, yeah, okay.
Because
So
otherwise you're
Steph,
just
we'll
kind of
let
trying
that
to do
know in the
everything.
report, is we're also looking for direction on the high priority items to tailor the Earth action
Day.
around it. I
Right.
think that's a great
Right.
suggestion.
And let them know, I think it'd be good to get a sense from at least the feedback that you shared today, which was
It's really good.
helpful for me to hear,
Mhm.
since I wasn't involved with it, some of the
We had other things on your
stumbling
plate.
blocks that you seem to have faced.
Yes, it's the Brown Act, it's just too
It was
hard.
really frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, and also I'm not sure like the email policy, quite honestly, that is in place for Atherton does not violate the Brown Act, quite honestly. Because as long as you're just posting the event without embellishments, you are not endorsing it, you're only posting it.
Mhm.
So I'm like
It's-
posting a public event.
It's a combination of Brown Act. It's a combination of the fact that the Brown Act, which is supposed to prevent decisions from being made outside the public eye,
We
apply
understand
to
that, yeah.
operating, planning, and execution committees on decisions that were made, and then all you can do is get it to happen or fail at getting it to happen, but the Brown Act seems to apply. So that's a problem, and also the control that the town manager puts on the use of social marketing, which is how everybody markets things, and we weren't able to do that. So it was basically ineffective.
So let me just make a comment. I'll put that down for you. That's not gonna change. Working within the town's governance structure is not gonna change. However, I do believe that clarification and some expansion of communications outside of the Brown Act situation can be can be given with the understanding of operations versus decision making, because we're not making policy decisions.
Correct.
And, communicating
It's a
information.
transparency.
Yes, it's all transparency stuff. So, but as far as, and I just want to say that this first Earth Day event that we had in 2016, it had been the first for a number of years, for like 5 years, right?
8.
Was it 8 years? No, I thought it was 2011, 2010. 2010 we had the last one? I think it was 2010.
2008.
No. 2009.
2009 we started, we had a soft launch for Atherton 2020.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, yeah,
2011.
Yeah, 2000.
But that wasn't an Earth Day event.
Well, okay, but we had had another event. Anyway, so it had been a long time, and getting council to
Get excited.
allow the Atherton 2020 logo was a big deal. I think that we can continue that and that brand. And so there's a lot of successes that we had in getting to where we are. The budget was what it was. It was skinny. And who knows, maybe we'll have a bigger budget because of this success. So I think we started off small, and it was frustrating. But as far as, managing money, and it all has to go through the town, the committee doesn't have money itself to spend and do and go spend and get reimbursements. We just don't have that ability. So whatever we do has to be within that governance restriction, because no other committee of the town has any financial means to do anything.
Elizabeth, I think we are, at least I feel, very clear that as a committee, we are advising the staff. The staff will buy stuff, the staff will plan stuff, the staff will execute stuff, the staff will do everything, and we are advising. On that basis, if the staff wants to do it with a budget of $5, that's their choice.
Yeah.
I'm not going to execute on trying to do what we did as a committee last year because it didn't work.
Well,
so
it may not be as wonderful,
mode,
may not be as big and bold and,
it
but
will be what it will be
Yeah.
because the staff will have to execute
Yeah.
it. And I think that that's where the difference lies. In my mind, I'm happy to advise on what I think should happen, but I see that our role is like this and none of this.
Well, I think it's like this, and
happy to help with ideas, yes.
Yeah.
But on a recommendation basis, I would say that my assessment of the costs of the event were that it was about a $13,000 event. That's how much it cost, actually. To say that we got a budget of $5,000 from the town meant that we actually also adjusted that on several occasions, and we had to raise a lot of outside support, which meant that we personally also funded the event. You funded, in addition to being unpaid labor. So that, when it comes to the staff wanting to do an event, I mean, my recommendation would be, don't do an event if you don't have the budget for it. If the town wants an event, make sure you get the right budget, because I don't know what kind of position you're going to be in to fundraise. We could pull strings, we could donate. I don't think you're going to donate to this event. So that's all I'd say. I'd say you need to make sure you know what your budget really will be, and then get that approved before you commit to doing an event that you can't do for the unrealistically low budget that you have been given. And my second recommendation would be that it's not easy to decide on how to make an event that is meaningful and effective and might have some lasting environmental benefit, and I recommend that you get in staff people who have training, credentials, and expertise in the appropriate area, which is environmental and urban planning. I don't know if any of you do have that. As far as I know, you don't. I think that's a critical skill. That's my recommendation.
So council last year, one of their directives in agreeing to have the EPC do this Earth Day event at the 9th hour, 11th hour, it kind of, they made directives that they wanted it to be an educational event and involve children. I mean, it was like that was a really big part of it. And that's where I think you guys just did an amazing job of getting that amount of children involved. I mean, we all wrote to the principals and talked to principals. So depending upon what council directs staff to do as far as creating the event, that will make a difference. And so they need to understand, the limitations that are going to be facing them. So I think
the point is that, we try to provide on the ground kind of boots to get stuff. We all made trips to schools. We all spoke to principals.
Right.
We dealt with teachers.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Yeah.
It's the staff that's doing that. So if the town wants the staff to execute on that level of program
Yeah,
in participation, they will have to fund staff to do that. That is the difference.
exactly.
Okay.
So, good.
I think we're clear on that.
Yeah, good.
Good? On that basis, do we want to go and discuss C? Or is there any more?
Well, I think we did a bit, and we're to come back following the direction received at the council at the January hearing regarding the prioritization of some of the greenhouse gas reduction measures that were discussed today as part of the adopted climate action plan, and take any feedback that we receive, give that back to you to help in the discussion ideas, perhaps, of an Earth Day event for 2017, considering the resources and available budget that we know we have.
Sure.
That sounds
Or
great.
might have.
Or might. Oh, yeah.
Might have. There's no guarantee.
But who knows, it might be Atherton Bike Day.
But, everybody get your bike out. Okay.
So if you want to, after we will, actually, we won't have much time after that. So we will sit down together and sort of brainstorm some of the ideas that could come up.
Yeah, it'll be hard for me to prepare
Right.
anything
Yeah.
prior to, beyond an agenda, and
We understand.
Just
It's
open
the
ended.
time
Just
constraints.
just open-ended agenda
You can do
item.
an agenda and be able to include the results of what happened the night before, right? So
Yeah.
that we can be.
oh, definitely. It just
Okay.
wouldn't be coming out till the morning of your meeting.
That's
Right.
fine.
Versus
Okay.
the Thursday before.
Totally.
But
Okay.
the agenda item would, because it had to be
Posted.
published.
Exactly.
Well,
The
Yeah,
agenda
but you
item.
can
Yeah.
give us more information.
Yeah.
Any other ideas while we're speaking of agenda that anybody has for an agenda in January?
It sounds like we actually have a lot to
The
discuss.
only
So-
the only agenda item that I think, well, one of the agenda items that I think we'd like to get on is the water channel project on Holbrook Palmer Park's border at Watkins that has not been discussed. It's I think a major project. It is associated with the rechanneling of Marsh Road, and I believe it has enormous environmental impacts for us, especially if we get more absorption from water runoff to get into our aquifer, which would benefit everybody in this town. I think we can all agree that a dry aquifer and having all of those wells not having water is a big problem for Atherton, and I'd like to see the town move ahead with a restoration project for the border creek along Holbrook Run Park. That's not been on our agenda, but I think it's part of what, with the water channel work that we've done and the master plan, that it should be discussed. And I'd like the EPC to be part of advising on something that is semi-restoration based and much like what they did up in Portola Valley, to restore that creek to it, maybe, having a design that permits a more natural look, because the channel is truly ugly and it borders our most beautiful jewel in this town. So I'd like to see that move ahead. I don't know if that's something, if and when that gets brought up by the council.
The council should discuss that, I think, as, and bring that up to council as something that they would feel that needs discussion, and if the committee would like to make a recommendation to council to consider that as part of a recommendation to have the EPC work on that, because then it would mean allocating staff time to do that kind of a thing.
I'm not sure what,
Yeah.
cart before the horse kind of problem, but to the extent that we have successfully rechanneled Marsh Road, it was part and parcel of the discussion the council had. So perhaps it might be something that staff brings up to say, sort of the give back for channeling Marsh Road and not having any water absorption or natural elements to that channel. The council committed, in a sense, to the community to bring those elements to the part of
So
public
the,
art.
so the channel had not had, I mean, it was a concrete bottom.
No, we don't need to get into it.
Anyway.
It was understood, but there
Yeah.
was, believe, county,
The fishing game.
what?
The fishing game.
The fishing
People.
game or the county's, environmental review
Mm-hmm.
gave the approval for rechanneling it as a box
Mm-hmm.
with the, so not, I don't know if it was a
It was
commitment, but it was under the understanding that we would
Mm-hmm.
do something more,
Riparian.
restorative
Mm-hmm.
on other parts of our channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Atherton Channel.
Let's not
discussion.
forget that, yes.
Atherton Channel discussion.
Okay.
Probably, I mean, it would have to be more holistically than just,
Yes, a more holistic design.
right, right.
So, I don't have anything, else. Does any committee or staff members have comments they'd like to make? Anything else?
Yeah.
So,
I think that
we're gonna
made a lot of
confirm our next
progress.
meeting?
We're gonna head toward January 19th.
So we've confirmed a meeting date of January 19th with the time
To
to
be
be
adjourned.
determined. 1 o'clock we're on.
119, yeah. Okay. I have a very big event on the